Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Highness Sayyid Asad bin Tariq Al Said reviews with the Ambassador of Algeria to the Sultanate the bilateral relations and aspects of existing cooperation between both countries in various fields. And Oman oil price exceeds $68 per barrel. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq received a cable of thanks from the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud of Saudi Arabia, in reply to His Majesty's cable of condolences on the death of His Highness Prince Fahd bin Mohammed bin Abdulaziz bin Saud bin Faisal Al Saud. His Highness Sayyid Asad bin Tariq Al Said, Deputy Prime Minister for International Relations and Cooperation Affairs and Special Representative of His Majesty the Sultan, received in his office this morning His Excellency Muhammad Yarqi, Ambassador of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, accredited to the Sultanate. During the meeting, cordial conversations were exchanged and the good bilateral relations between the Sultanate and the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria and aspects of the existing cooperation between them in many fields were reviewed to serve the common interests of the two brotherly countries and people. The meeting was attended by Their Excellencies, the Secretary General and the two advisors in the Office of His Highness. The price of Oman oil May 2021 delivery reached $68.35 per barrel. Today, the price of Oman oil witnessed an increase of $1.94. The average of Oman crude oil price March 2021 delivery reached $54.78. Thus $4.79 higher compared to the price of February 2021 delivery. The Ministry of Education has launched a commemorative stamps issued by Oman Post to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the establishment of a Saidiyya school. More details in the following report by Ahmed bin Mahmoud Al-Hanai.
Al Saidiyya School was built on the orders of Sultan Said bin Taimur in 1940 and established for formal education in the Sultanate through a specialized and integrated school building. The late Sultan Qaboos bin Said gave instructions to transform the school into a comprehensive educational museum that documents the education process in the Sultanate, to introduce the present and future generations to the stages of the educational process through successive periods of time up to the Blessed Renaissance. The museum was inaugurated in January 2014, and it consists of 10 halls that include many educational achievements under the patronage of His Majesty the Sultan Haytham bin Tariq. These stamps are part of a series of commemorative stamps in denominations of 100, 300 and 500 besa, which were printed in offset method with dimensions 4 by 4 centimeters.
The Sultanate joins world countries in celebrating International Women's Day, which falls on the 8th of March each year. The Sultanate's participation stems from the concern that the Sultanate attaches to women in all fields, their involvement in development plans and programs, and the focus on efforts to support and empower them in various sectors. The Women's Access within Oman Vision 2040 focused on providing an appropriate environment for their participation in various aspects of economic, social, political, and civil life in order to enhance their status and enable them to participate actively in comprehensive and sustainable development efforts. This year's celebration comes under the theme Women and Their Leadership Role, achieving an equal future in a world dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The doctors in the Royal Hospital stressed that the number of COVID-19 patients and those in intensive care unit are increasing, while pointing out on the necessity to adhere to the preventive measures to avoid further infections. Since mid-January 2021, the situation of COVID-19 pandemic is becoming worrying in the country, as the number of fatalities are also increasing. The medical cadres around the country are exerting great efforts to face the pandemic, and it's the priority of all to strictly adhere to the precautionary measures to protect themselves and the members of the community from COVID-19. The Ministry of Health announced that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 144,404, while the total number of deaths reached 1,594. The total recovered cases reached 134,684, which is 93.2% of the total recovery rate. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients reached 219, among of which 76 are in the intensive care units. Still to come on News Bulletin. The robotic Mayflower is in ship shape for April Atlantic voyage. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. After delays, Israel started vaccinating Palestinians who work inside the country and Swiss bank settlements today, more than 2 months after launching an immunization blitz of its own population. Palestinian laborers who crossed into Israel at several West Bank checkpoints received their first doses of the Moderna vaccine. Some 100,000 Palestinian laborers from the West Bank work in Israel and its settlement, which are widely seen internationally as illegal and an obstacle to peace. Israel has administered over 8.7 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine to its population of 9.3 million. But until today, Israel had provided few vaccines for Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, a move that has underscored global disparities and drawn international criticism. France began speeding up its national COVID-19 vaccination campaign today, opening hundreds of vaccination centers over the weekend in Paris and across the country. 4 military hospitals also opened large vaccination centers this weekend for the local population after the French government came under criticism for a slow start of the campaign. French Prime Minister Jean Castex announced yesterday that 585,000 people have been vaccinated since Friday. The country is still under a national curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., with additional weekend lockdown measures. A total of 23 regions have been placed under reinforced surveillance over high rates of the infection, with Castex saying France had to do everything it could to avoid a third lockdown. French authorities have reported 88,574 virus-related deaths, one of the highest tolls in Europe. A French billionaire aviation industrialist who also served as a member of a parliament for 19 years has died in a helicopter crash. 69-year-old Olivier Dussault was heir to a powerful family business empire that made Falcon private jets and Rafale fighter planes, as well as owning many other businesses, including French newspapers La Fiagro. A judicial inquiry for eventual manslaughter charges is underway after yesterday's crash in Normandy. The French National Air Accident Investigation Agency said that the helicopter crashed just after takeoff from a private airfield. The pilot of the helicopter was also killed in the crash. Forbes magazine listed Desilets as one of the world's top 500 richest people in 2020. He held executive positions at the family-owned Desilets Group. Bouncing on the water in Plymouth Harbor is the Mayflower, not the ship that left this English port 400 years ago carrying pilgrim settlers to America, but a sleek robotic vessel with no passengers or crew on board. After launch last September, the Mayflower autonomous ship, a 50-foot trimaran, has almost completed 6 months of sea trials. If successful, the 1 million-pound ship could become the largest ever autonomous vessel to cross the ocean. Built by the nonprofit marine research organization ProMare and computing giant IBM, the vessel was launched and christened last September, 400 years to the day since the original Mayflower left Plymouth. The coronavirus pandemic delayed the construction of the autonomous ship and the vessel's transatlantic voyage. Like the original Mayflower, it's powered by the elements, in this case, a mix of sun, wind, and energy, with a backup diesel generator. A range of technologies help the boat sense the world around it, including cameras and radar to detect hazards. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's news bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Highness Sayyid Asad bin Tariq Al Said reviews with the ambassador of Algeria to the Sultanate the bilateral relations and aspects of existing cooperation between both countries in various fields. And Oman oil price exceeds $68 per barrel. And with the end of tonight's news bulletin, we would like to remind you one more time to keep following the precautionary measures of wearing face masks, washing hands, and keeping physical distance from each other. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, thank you for watching and have a good night.